The American Revolution was an uprising that happened almost 250 years ago. American colonists objected to being taxed and controlled by the British. Tensions had been rising for years until finally one event marked the turning point where an all-out revolution began. That event was the Boston Tea Party. Here to tell you a little bit more about the American Revolution is noted historian Percy Tiddlywink III.
Oh, hey, you want someone to teach you about the American Revolution? Well, who around here is going to teach you that? Oh, you want me to teach you? Well, let's start where all problems start first. America. The Americans were consuming 300 cups of tea a year, which was about 1 million pounds of tea a year. Americans were drinking about 75% of their tea shipped in illegally from Holland. There was very little surveillance by the British of the American coast, because the coast of America was so long and so far away from England. The British were in a 7-year war, the French Revolution, with France, which drained all the British resources. The British wanted to make up for all the money they lost fighting the French in war, so they decided new taxes on America were their best option. The colonists were pushed to having to fight for their lives.
Fast forward 237 years. The fight for civil rights occurred throughout the 20th century, especially in the 1960s, with leaders like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. But true racial equality never happened. In 2012, a man named George Zimmerman shot and killed an unarmed young black man named Trayvon Martin. A year later, Zimmerman was acquitted. Protests began springing up all over the U.S. The police killings of black men, Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, Eric Garner in New York City, and George Floyd in Minneapolis, pushed Black Lives Matter into an international movement. Here to tell you a little bit more about the Black Lives Matter movement is noted Black Studies scholar Tanya Bridges.
Hello, my name is Professor Tonya Bridges, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm here to tell you about the Black Lives Matter movement. In July 2013, Patrisse Cullors reposted a message about the acquittal of George Zimmerman in the murder of Trayvon Martin with the hashtag Black Lives Matter. The Black Lives Matter movement was founded by 3 black queer women, Alicia Garza, Patrisse Cullors, and Opal Tometi, who expanded their project into a national network of over 30 local chapters between 2014 and 2016 alone. The overall Black Lives Matter movement is a decentralized network. That means that there's no one hierarchy handing down all the directions.
Like the colonists 237 years before them, Black Lives Matter protesters were pushed to the point of having to fight for their lives. So how are these two movements, separated by hundreds of years, similar? The answers are surprising. Back to our historian, Percy Tiddlywink III.
Police used their own military-grade weapons on their own citizens, like the British did in the Boston Massacre. Black people not being given equal rights is similar to how the white colonists in the time of the Revolution were protesting not having proper representation in all levels of government. Both Black Lives Matter and the Americans in the American Revolution were frustrated that they do not have or did not have say in what was happening to them. In both cases, the government sees American citizens as people to control and tax, but doesn't respect them as full citizens.
It's often said, if we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. We remember settlers for speaking out against the British government that was not fair and not equal. We see the same things today, with police using weapons against assembling people, especially if they're black. Let's put into action those founding ideals: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all people. And all means all.